Hey, everybody, this is Brett Ingram, and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today, we're talking with Lidia Chmel, business coach and growth strategist. She's helped over 1,000 students and clients build a thriving coaching business. I'm super excited about this because I think now more than ever, people are really interested in lifestyle businesses in which they can follow their passions. So, learning how to do it successfully is going to be really valuable. So, with that, welcome, Lydia, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great introduction. I'm super excited to be here and answer all your questions, hopefully for the listeners to benefit and learn and apply. Because I'm all, why I love coaching, because it's very practical. It's all about kind of what you can grab and implement there and then.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think, what you're doing is so timely because, I've met a lot of people that, they're sort of interested in getting away from their corporate grind and doing something that aligns with their passion. And so, anybody that has a personal experience, or obviously if they have a certification or something, a deep background in something, but a lot of times even it just comes from a place of passion where they feel like they have some things that they can offer other people. So I know you're going to be sharing a lot of amazing tips and all that other stuff, and I have a bunch of questions I want to ask, but I do have to start off with your background. So can you share with us your journey into the coaching industry and what inspired you to focus on helping coaches build their businesses to begin with?
No, absolutely. And you mentioned corporate grind. I was in corporate 15 years, so I know that my first kind of first-hand experience. I'm an accountant, so I've been in a big four these days. Back then it was big six.
Yeah,
That
I
was a
think it was
long
Big
time
Eight
ago.
before that too. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I joined Coopers and Lybrand in 6 months, joining PW, becoming PwC. So I was right in the middle. But anyway, I was there, fresh from the university, and I had a very steep career, moving, kind of jumping ranks and becoming a director in PwC, like a major big four. Again, let's keep the big four for a minute. And then I was 35 at that time, so very young. Uh, and, I was lucky because I had my family and 3 kids and, a house and a career. And then the question came like, okay, what's next? And then I looked at the guys, the partners, because I was on a track to become a partner.
Yeah.
And that's like the bingo, that's what everyone wants. At 35 is like, oh my God, and I didn't want it. I'm like, okay, I know I can get it because I have skills. Um, and I know it sounds a little bit kind of, ambitious, but like I knew I was gonna get it. Like maybe, in a 2, 3, 4 years, but I didn't want it because I look at them and I didn't want to be like them. Because I didn't like it what I saw. At 35, I think I already prematurely hit the midlife crisis. Like the question is, for what? What am I here for? What I'm given to this world? And then the legacy. I think the legacy question kind of the biggest because the midlife crisis for me, and I wrote a book on midlife crisis. So, I'm and I'm like, when I'm gone, what am I going to be remembered for? And that was the first question because I went to do my executive MBA, and that was the question in the first session. I think that was too much, but it hit me hard. Like, when you're gone, what are you going to be remembered for? And I'm like, no, no, no way. I don't want to go that route. It's just not for me. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's evil. I'm just saying it's not for me. I wanted to find something else. And I went on a journey that finally led me to I want to work with people. I want to help people achieve their goals, achieve their dreams. And it was broad. And I was kind of looking. So the next 10 years, it was 10 years ago that I made that turn.
Okay.
Um, and then finally, I was like, I think this world need more coaches because I see so many people struggling in various arenas, mental health, productivity, relationship. Like there are so many areas where coaches can be so helpful, because I wholeheartedly believe in coaching and tools and techniques. But what I see that coaches, they're good in what they do. They're good at their craft, but they're not good at building their business, which requires a different skill set. And because I have a very strong business background, financial background, and then the MBA that I got, and then building my own business for the last 10 years, several businesses. And I'm like, well, I want to help. And that's where I am today. I want to help more coaches that are great at what they do as a craft. I want to help them build sustainable businesses that would allow them to do what they love most,
A-
coach
and
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 help other people.
and I think that's great. It's funny your journey because I think a lot of us when we start off in our career, we have one thing in mind because we're always taught to look for, whatever success looks like. So if there's money and titles and things like that, but you do get to a certain point where you do start to reflect and you wonder, okay, so what is this all going to equate to? At some point when the career stops and I'm, gone and out of this, what am I going to leave behind me that's going to matter, and whose lives am I going to have impacted? And it's funny because from the coaching perspective, I'll tell you, one of the reasons I started my podcast is because I'm a 17-year entrepreneur and I did it all pretty much alone. I had a network of people. We sort of work together, but it's all by Skype and everything else. And so we see each other a couple times a year at conferences and events. And one of the biggest regrets I have about my entire journey is the fact that I didn't connect with enough other people. I
Mm.
didn't get any sort of mentoring or coaching or any of that. And so I made a lot of mistakes that I think I could have avoided if I had the right help. And I also feel as though now it's my opportunity to, flip that script for other people. And so I wanted to start a podcast with the idea that let other entrepreneurs out there know they're not alone. The journey is what it is. It's challenging. So people sell the dream, but when you get to the reality, you see there's work involved. It's not always that easy, and it can be lonely. It can be isolating, especially nowadays where we're behind our screens. I mean, technology has made it everything so accessible and easy, but at the same time, it's made the isolationism idea rampant. I mean, people feel depressed and lonely and all that other stuff because we're more connected by technology than we've ever been, but we're less connected humanly than we've ever been. And I think that that's a really important point. So you've helped a lot of people with coaching businesses become more successful. So first off, I just want to ask, do you think that anyone can be a coach, or do you think there are certain skills or traits that we need to have in advance for someone to be able to make that work?
Um, I think you do need to have some. I don't want to, it's traits, it's desire, it's need. You can use a different name, but I think you have to have it. So to become a good coach, you need to have some sort of, again, a trait, a need, a desire to be of help, to be of service. Like that has to be a driving force. I think, and I learned that statistics recently that 80% of coaches give up by year three. 80% of coaches give up by year three. And we know that entrepreneurs or startups by itself has a very low success rate,
Yeah.
right? And a very high rate of depression, anxiety, other mental health, and thus giving up. But coaches, I learned that statistic and it just blew my mind. And then I was thinking about the reasons why it's happening. And I think one of the reasons that people get into coaches for the wrong reason. And the reason is like, oh, this is kind of easy. Do your walk on the beach, kind of, uh, 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 easy thing on the internet I can do. No, it's not. it's not easy at all, being a coach. And it's because building a business, just any business, is a tough game. Just you just mentioned that, a lonely game, oftentimes lonely game, tough game, a lot of resilience, mental resilience required. And then again, the question is, well, being a coach is a tough job, because again, you need to have that deep desire to help people, to be of service, because it's tough, you know. Uh, um it's not, you know, it's
Yeah,
not
so
like
the idea
tender
of
in the
it,
garden, or
yeah.
doing it. It's a tough work working with people. It's just tough.
Yeah, so the exciting part of it, is there, but it's a small piece. And it's, you gotta have that passion that drives you so you're able to get through those obstacles. And I do think I see the parallel there with all entrepreneurship. A lot of people jump from one thing to the next because they think the problem is with the vehicle that they're trying to get to be successful, when in reality, the problem is that either the commitment level or the passion or the reason behind it
Mhm.
isn't strong enough to make you keep going despite the fact that times are tough. And I
Yep.
think, having an understanding of that why and core belief in what you're doing matters so much. So what do you see as the most common obstacles and challenges most coaches face? I mean, you alluded earlier to the idea that they're good at sort of their craft of the actual job, but it's sort of the marketing business piece. Is that pretty much what you think are the biggest obstacles, or are there other things as well?
um so there are inherent things, inherent in the coaching, that um, you cannot, like, there's a saber syndrome that we coaches fall prey, right? So we like, I need to save every single person, like I need to get every single person to success. I guess that's one of the biggest in terms of the coaching craft, because you need to be sure not to take responsibility for your client. You can only take responsibility for your work, how much you input. Now they need to go, it's kind of two way street, and you need to go your half, and they need to go their half. And I think what I experienced when I was a young, inexperienced coach, I was feeling like the client's failure is my failure, you know and that takes a toll on you. Like, this is very taxing. When you see your clients fail, you're like, oh my god, I failed, I didn't do enough or whatever. But that's not always true, right? So you can do your part, but you cannot do the work that your client has to do, right? So this is one big. And then on the, like, what I mentioned, the business part, that often coaches just completely underestimate the effort that is required to put into the business. And I don't know, the reality is, in the beginning, in the start of the career, building their business, it should be 80/20, whereas 80% of the effort and time should go into building a business versus kind of the coaching craft, right? Because you need to start getting that consistent flow of clients to be able to get experience as a coach, to be able to get the revenues, to be able to get testimonials, the feedback. I mean, everything. So, and I think they don't see that the 80% of the effort should go. So they kind of bounce it out. The dials are going other way. They're like, oh, the 80% should go into becoming a better coach, improving my coaching craft, and then only 20 they put into the business in the best case scenario. And it doesn't work that way, because if your your flow of traffic, your clients, is like thin, it just drops. That's not going to help. That's not going to work that way. So that's
Yeah, I
That's
think
it.
that's a really good point. You know, the thing you want to do if you're a coach is coach. So if you have opportunities to do that, you're going to default to that because it's the more fun, the more rewarding. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the engine moving in the background, that's going to keep generating leads. I remember I did a few years in staffing when I was younger, and it's basically a sales job. And one of the first
Mm.
things that I learned, which I thought was a really great way to approach the business, is when you're in sales, the first thing that they teach you is it's about the activity, right? So you might have a good week where you land 3 clients. And so if you then sit back and go, well, this was a good week, I think I'll go to the beach and I'll go watch some TV. Well, next week you're not going to land any clients. You're going to be down to zero. So the focus was always on the input. If you keep the activity level at the level it needs to be to generate the output, it'll work itself out. You'll have an up week, you'll have a down week, but you know that pipeline is always going to generate more for you down the road. And so you don't get too high with the highs, you don't get too low with the lows, and you focus on the parts of the work that matter, the prospecting and all that kind of stuff. The other thing I love that you said in the first part of your answer is the idea that the client needs to meet you halfway and that you aren't responsible for what they do. I'll tell you, when I was younger, I was in a business and I was a really young kid, but I was always entrepreneurial. And one of the businesses that we were in, it was sort of a business that you could start for very cheap and it was very easy. And so we wanted to save everybody, right? Anybody that had financial issues, anybody that wanted to be, we said, oh, we got this thing like you don't need skills and you can do this. And so you try to do it for them to an extent, right? To get them to, and then what you realize is the people that you do the most for that don't do anything in return, they don't value it anyway. So not only are they not successful, but you get frustrated because you're spinning your wheels trying to do if people don't have the motivation to do what they need to do to meet you halfway, it isn't going to matter what you do or how wonderful you are as a coach or a motivator. You can't help everybody if they aren't willing to do their part of it. And I think that's really, really great advice. I'm glad you mentioned that because I actually had similar experience with that in every walk of life. If there are people that you want to help, but if they don't want to help themselves, there's only so much that you can do, right? And so I think that that's a really great distinction and great advice. So I know one of the problems that coaches have is competition, right? There are low barriers to entry in the sense that in a lot of coaching fields anyway, you don't necessarily have to have tons of schooling or certification. You technically could be a coach if you do various things. So how do you suggest coaches differentiate themselves or stand out in a crowded market? Are there particular ways they can do that?
Sure, sure. And I think these days, anyone can call themselves a coach. Like for CPA, you need to go, and because I'm from
Right.
accounting, I
Right.
know you have to go through the certain number of school hours and then pass the exam and get certified and get a certain number of hours even every year, kind of to continue keeping your CPA degree. Like compared to coaching, where I can come with zero education, zero hours, right, and say I'm a coach, right? And it has two sides, right? It's good and bad. Like you said, there's very low barrier, so anyone can get in. Although I think if you call yourself a coach, you better have some sort of a degree or diploma, right? I got my Ericsson coaching diploma, 6 months, very thorough education, very ICF kind of certified. Anyway, so how to stand out? And I think it's the same. Honestly, coaching is no different from any other niche. You need to be very specific to what is your niche. And when I'm saying the niche, pick who you help and what you help with. So, who is your client? And we're not talking demographic, we're talking sociographics, we're talking the context, like where these people are in their life or in their career, in their social situation, right? Like, newlywed or, just divorced, or changed jobs, or just promoted as a manager. So like very specific situation, life context. This is the who, and then with what, the problem, like, yeah, very specific one problem that gonna help them solve, right? And that could be, if they're newly wed, is like how to learn to live with someone where you didn't live before, just promoted, like how you talk to people who you've been on the same level and now you're their boss. So like pick one very narrow, very specific problem, um, and then offer a very specific, again, coaching package, like, we're going to work on this problem. This is point A, this is where you are, this is point B. I'm gonna help you to get that. That way you will stand out, because you will be so specific that it is unlikely there are other people who are focusing on exactly that. Now, the other question is probably, bubbling up. It's like, well, how do I choose, right? And there is, and that's also part of the solution, because when choosing that, you need to bring something to that table, either your own experience or someone you've helped. So there need to be something, your story, because these days everything about storytelling, right? So, you know, behind every successful product out there, there is a story. These days, we don't buy things, we buy stories, right? When we buy Apple, what do we buy? We buy story, right? And pick any Nike, any successful brand. We buy story behind that brand. These, not nowadays, and bringing it to this small level is the same. If you want to sell easier, then there need to be a story behind it. So you pick your who, you pick with what the problem, and then bring your story to this triangle. And that's it. And just tell it enough time to bring attention. That's it.
I love that. That's great. What a great little, sort of micro strategy there that we put together. Um, yeah, the story thing is so powerful, and now that we've sort of democratized the ability to advertise and promote, you no longer need a huge budget to go and buy ads or billboards or radio or TV. If you have something that's compelling, people will be magnetized to it. And I'm a big believer. I've said this a number of times. I actually think we're sort of transitioning now into the authenticity age, because we first went through this phase with social media where everything became about how amazing everything is. Oh, I had the best weekend and this looks like the best. But now we're sort of getting sick of the over
Yeah. The
curation of everything.
vanity, the Vanity
Yeah,
Fair, the
yeah.
Vanity Fair air.
Exactly. And now it's about being human, it's about being real. And I think that look, even for me with the podcast, initially one of my hesitations was, oh well, to do a podcast about business and entrepreneurship, don't I have to be an expert at everything? I'm like, no, I don't. I have a personal experience that I can share, but I can bring on other people, for one, and for two, people don't relate to people that are perfect at everything, because we know it isn't real, right? I mean, there's something that keeps a distance between us and somebody who pretends to be perfect all the time, because it isn't sustainable. And it's why, by the way, I think you have a lot of these people that are, influencers or social media personalities that have issues with depression and other things, because if it's a show
Oh
that
yeah.
you're putting on, if it isn't real and it isn't really you, that's exhausting. So, I mean, my whole thing was, look, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be vulnerable. And if people don't like it, oh, well, right? I mean, that's the best I could do. Because if I have to pretend to be something I'm not to be successful or to make it work, I'm not going to do it. And so I think your point is very strong there. So, um, profitability, making enough money as a coach, is obviously a big challenge for people. Some people get into it, they're able to get some clients, they do friends and family, they do the stuff that the low hanging
Yeah.
fruit for them is easy. Are there specific strategies that you believe are important for coaches to develop a profitable business model?
Um, well, there are many, but I think, like you said, um, what I've seen, well, there are two poles there. One pole is like people are like, oh, I'm gonna be serving, I'm gonna be giving. They start with friends, family, and then they keep giving. They keep giving. They give out free content, and then they give even free coaching, free webinar. So they follow the strategy. Actually, wrote a post on LinkedIn about it today. They give so much value, kind of waiting for reciprocity to kick in, or waiting for people to say, "Oh my God, you're so knowledgeable. Why don't you kind of? I'm happy to buy from you." So they kind of waiting. They're so afraid of selling that they give without asking anything in return. I think this is a dangerous strategy, and I wouldn't recommend going that way unless you have like a big financial cushion, or someone, your partner supporting you, or you don't need money from, because you get it from other sources. Because I don't know how long is the runway. It's definitely months, if not years, until you kind of build up your personal brand, your authority, your credibility, and people come and say, "Oh, sell me something." Okay, so I think people, and then the other part. So I told you there are two poles, right? So this is one pole. Now the other pole is they listen to the marketing guru, and put in the air quotes for listeners, could say you need to sell expensive stuff because people, only value things if they pay a lot of money. So if they come with no experience or little experience and start selling very expensive stuff, both are very risky strategies, in my view. I think there is something better in the middle. I think when you're starting out, and I really love Alex Hormozy, like first five, where you give your first five, and it can be, five, it can be 10, it can be free or at lower cost, but you're very deliberate about them. You're very deliberate what you're trying to achieve by giving the free coaching to your first five, because you want to get feedback, you're going to get testimonial, and then you switch them, so you not stay with them for free forever. Very limited time. And then once they start seeing the result, you switch, you offer them, hey, you're getting results, let's switch to, are you ready to pay for that? And if not, why not? So, and then you ask, hey, can you recommend something? So, doing kind of soft, I guess, soft entrance. If you're just starting out, it's okay to offer your services for free or lower cost. Although I prefer free versus lower cost, because lower cost is kind of price tells a story. So if you're going for free, that's one story. If you're going low cost, it's a different story. You kind of position yourself at the Walmart and at the lower price, versus if you're going for free, you're saying, hey, I'm just starting out, my service is at that price. So, and then just being very mindful that as soon as you start seeing results, that's time you need to switch. You need to switch to the paying clients, and then you need to get at my kind of key value proposition is you need to start getting comfortable with selling. You need to learn selling. And selling is not that difficult. There are a lot of this is psychology, and that's what I help my client with. But you need to get comfortable with selling, because any business that dealing with people, you will need, you just need to learn selling. And the sooner you get comfortable with it, the better, right? And it's a skill. It's not a rocket science. And because it's a skill, just like any other skill, you can learn it, you can get better at it. First, it's okay to be bad. But you can learn it, and once you learn it, you become, unstoppable. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important, and I agree with you from the positioning standpoint. If you give something away for free and you say I have a limited amount, and the idea there is to get the testimonials, get the feedback, and hone your craft and your offerings, then that makes a lot of sense. If you fire sale everything, it makes it look like it isn't really valuable. And, and that's one of the challenges. I've always recommended to people if they do that kind of thing with any product or service, it's always for a limited time or a limited quantity. And that way you reserve the option to raise the price and you raise it as quickly as you can. Because once you've validated that there's a market there and that the demand is there and it's worth the value that you think it is, a lot of people undervalue their own stuff. They'll pay a lot for things, but when it's their own, they feel weird about charging people or understanding what they're worth is really what it comes down to. If you're giving away too much for free, um, at some point, you're a good Samaritan, but you're not going to be able to pay your bills doing that. So, I
no,
go ahead.
and you will end up in that 80% who give up by year three. So we got the stats. So
Yeah,
we're not just saying the story. There are numbers that telling us that people are doing it way too long, and then they just end up, okay, I need a job because I need to pay my bills. That's where it leads.
yeah,
And I think the other end that I just mentioned, saying, I'm only selling for whatever 3,000 or 5,000 or whatever 10,000. Well, yeah, but again, I think you need to get there. There is a path, there is a runway to get there, and it also can lead you to the same result, unfortunately.
yeah. No, it's very true. So I know another concern that some people that are interested in coaching have is time, right? Some people do recognize the fact that, wait a minute, if I'm doing coaching and I'm trading time for money here,
Yeah.
so the question is it really possible to maintain a work-life balance or whatever you want to call it? I know some people don't like that term because they're sort of inextricable from each other, but is it possible to have balance in your life while you're still running a coaching business?
Right. Well, I think when you're starting out, it's okay, but eventually you will reach a point where there is no more time you can give unless you sacrifice the balance, right? Whether it's family, yourself, or your free time. But I think it's a natural progression. And at that point, when I work with my clients, we come up with other products, right? And there are so many these days. So, honestly, there is a group coaching, and where you can very easily kind of group people together with the same problems, the same goals, and you free up a lot of time. And then, so there's group coaching, which can take different formats like masterminds or just the cohorts and stuff like that. Now, also, I think coaches, again, once this is a natural progression, once they coach enough people with the certain narrow niche, with a certain problem, they get the understanding of the similar steps those people need to take to get to a certain goal or to overcome the certain problem. They're ready to offer products, digital products. And this can be a really a great way to the coaching portfolio, as we call them, right? So you have, you still want to keep one-on-one, but you kind of keep it as an exclusive, as a higher ticket offer. And then you have the group coaching. And then you have the entry product that can be online course, that can be, self-paced something, right? That people can take to make at least, some progress. The first step, first of all, it's more affordable to people. Second of all, you do it once and then it doesn't take any time of yours, right? Now, you do need to invest in the marketing to build the whole process. But I think, uh, um, if you look at this as a natural progression, it all makes sense. What people do, they do backwards. They're like, oh, I need to create the product, or I need to run a group where they have nobody, they have no prior experience. So it's just so messed up. So I think starting with a one-on-one coaching client build up until you're out of time, that kind of starts telling you that you either need to raise the prices, right?
Yeah.
If you're out of time, because you don't want to sacrifice your own time, right? Your self-care, your family, or right, you either raise the prices and or you bring those different modalities, which is group coaching, which is the productized services that people can buy, and where there is a little, if not or no, of your involvement. So it's totally possible, and again, it's a very natural progression if you take it kind of the right sequence.
That makes total sense. So, interesting question for you. If you could go back and tell your younger self one piece of advice about coaching, what would that be?
Uh, yeah. I would do exactly that because I was listening to all sorts of advice, and it was not what I'm telling to you right now. The advice was, oh, launch a course. And I was trying to launch a course was like, oh, why people are not buying my course? Or I was like trying to do the mastermind, and I would have some people, but not as many. So I was trying to do things before I was ready for those things. So if the advice is kind of what I just said is like, hey, um, be more narrow. The first advice would be, and that's always my first advice to anyone who comes to me is like, let's get even more specific. Let's get, yeah, even more narrow in terms who we're helping and what problem we're solving. And it's hard. It was hard for me back then, and
Yeah.
that's what I see is very hard for people still. And then I would just don't rush. I'm very impatient person. I'm very kind of,
Yeah.
oh, I want it now. I want it all. But just be patient. Just go with the natural progression. There is my favorite exercise. I sometimes give it to my clients. I ask them to take the bean,
Mhm.
and put it in the jar with water and some cotton, and put it on near the window, and look at it every day, and just watch how long it would take the bean to grow this sprout, the
Yeah.
green leaves and stuff. It takes time. And sometimes if you put several of them, some of them just don't grow.
Right.
This is amazing exercise that just, you can stand over that and all day long and say, I want to get it faster. Yeah, you can do that, but there is a natural progression. Things take time. Your content, your audience, your business, it grows, and it goes up and down, and it just takes time. Good things, natural things take time.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's great
that would be
advice.
my advice.
Yeah, I think it's great advice because I think that, you know, we do live in a we want it now type of age and society. And I think that the things that are most valuable always take time. And the other thing is, you're going to exist one way or the other. So even though you might want all your goals achieved today, the reality of it is, what's your alternative? I mean, you could go
Yeah.
get the job that you were working before. So one way or another, you got to do something. So even if you're not exactly where you want to be with it today, if you're working on it and it's something you enjoy, then just enjoy the process and have confidence that as long as you pay attention to the results you're getting and make adjustments as needed, that you'll get there when you get there. So so that, yeah, I think that's great advice as well. So where can people find you, find your products, find your services? Where can they connect with you?
Sure. I'm hanging out on LinkedIn every day these days. I'm kind of leaning in LinkedIn. So Lidia Chmel um, is the easiest way to find me. You can also find me on the web, Lydia, getitdonecoaching.com. Yeah, my kind of signature product is get your 10 coaching clients in 30 days. It's kind of my signature product. I'm trying to be very focused, very specific. But come to LinkedIn. Let's hang out. And again, I'm very much into kind of let's get connected. Let's get let's talk. Let's chat. Like you know, relationship relationship over transactions, right? So people are so focused like I need to get transactional, I need to get sale. I think we need to step back and
Yeah.
remember that it's all about building relationships. So yeah, come on there
That's the
and
great
let's
irony,
talk.
as we are more, connected again, people forget, business at its core, right, is always about relationships. It's a relationship with your customer, relationship with your suppliers, your partners, your staff, whatever. And that's the thing that really makes things go. So I really resonate with that idea. I mean, it's the thing that I realized. If you're too focused on results all the time and not focused on people, it's generally the wrong way to go. So, the results will come if the rest of it's in place. So, perfect. And thanks for
Yeah,
that. And so I have one last question that I have to ask because I think it's really
sure.
important. And it's always interesting to hear everyone's unique perspective. What's your number one tip for success as a business owner or an entrepreneur?
um Wow. It's a it's
I
it's a
stumped
very
you.
it's a very broad
I
it's a
know.
very broad
I
question.
know. It's
I
designed to be
think,
that way.
and I don't know, I'm not trying, and look, I'm not trying to be original or anything. I think the number one step is define your success. Like before you go in after success, gosh, define your success. Because again, we talked about a bit. Look at those success, and I'm gonna put the air quotes again. Look at those successful people. How many of them are happy?
Yeah.
We want success without defining it, looking at someone, kind of saying, this is my success model, and going after that. Only once we get there, realize, well, it, we don't feel anything. So I say the number one thing, ask yourself, what does my success look like? And I love Cal Newport just in general, and all his work, the deep work, and the latest book, The Slow Productivity, and what he's talking about, the lifestyle centric planning, the lifestyle centric goal setting. So before going after your goals, we'll ask yourself, what is the lifestyle that I want? Do I want to live on the beach and kind of only work 2 hours and spend the rest of the day surfing? Or do I want to work do I want to live in the heart of the city? I don't know, like in New York or I don't know, London, whatever, the big city where I'm just connected to people, going to conferences, speaking at. So ask yourself, what make you what makes you super happy, super excited, what makes you you, like a fish, what is your water? Like you fish, what is your water? And then that's your success. And then go after it. And then it becomes mechanic, to be honest,
Yeah,
and then it's like, it's no brainer. I think that's what people miss. They just going after the wrong success.
I agree. I think a lot of it is externally driven. We see images of what it should be. We're always told what success is. But if we don't stop and think about and define it for ourselves, it's hard to know. I mean, what somebody thinks would be their ideal life, I can tell you already is not right for me. What I want in my life ideally is probably not what other people want. And so I think that's actually really good advice. I mean, even though I understand you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but it's great advice because I think having a direction of where we're going before we try to get there just makes logical sense. So, so with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you so much again, Lydia,
And it
for
might take you some time. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, yeah, go
I
for it.
think I think it's not an easy
It's
question.
not,
I think it might take you days, weeks, and or even years to actually figure out what you actually want in life. So don't
and
take this question kind of easy.
no, and your ideas can change. What I wanted 15 years ago is not what I want now. So you also have to constantly realize it's sort of an organic process
Yeah.
that you keep going back to and keep reevaluating because you might start off and you might have that clarity, but you might get halfway up the mountain and then decide, you know what? I don't actually really like this. I'd rather be back down there. So exactly, I think that's really, really important point as well. So thanks again so much for sharing all your insights and tips with us. Visit getitdonecoaching.com slash
Get it
newsletter.
done.
Get it done. To subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Thriving Coach Sunday, practical advice for coaches who want to build a successful, sustainable business. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, remember, no matter what you want for your business and your life, don't compromise, optimize.